with regard to stress, stress can be a really helpful thing. So it can be something that we need in our lives to tell us, like to give us a warning sign. So when we're driving in traffic, which we're not doing a lot of at the moment, and someone cuts us off, we have that stress response for a reaction, don't we? And our heart will race and our blood will start pumping and we can feel the adrenaline and we'll feel a little bit hot, and we might take action immediately as an immediate response to keep ourselves and our family safe. And when the moment's over, we might go around in our head about that person and why they shouldn't have cut us off. But after a while, our energy comes back down. We return to what we call homeostasis. We return to a balance within ourselves. Yeah. And in the email I sent you, I shared with you that I'm not into balance, but I am into satisfaction. But this kind of balance within ourselves is really important, that feeling of calm and like openness, and that things can flow through as opposed to tension and trying to force or control things. So the point here is that stress is really important in short bursts. It keeps us safe, it keeps us aware, and we can trust it. But when we're using it in our mind to internalize things, and that causes worry and then stress and anxiety and even depression at times, then that's when it's unhealthy. Yeah. Some stats from the Women's World Health Organization, and you'll find this information on womenshealth.gov. I was having a look at what they say because, I follow lots of leading edge experts on stress and the impact on the body, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I've shared with you before. And he talks significantly about this, and there's lots of information on YouTube in his interviews around what he feels is the impact of stress. But if you look at womenshealth.gov, there's information there on the importance of stress in our lives, but also when it's sustained stress and the impact it can have on our body. So I'm going to ask you to write down for yourself for the first thing that we'll do today. What is the impact of stress on your body or on your life? So if you think about when you feel stress, the stress that you could feel from work. So maybe, the workload. I'm hoping you can hear me when I turn here. So if you can't hear me, let me know. Workload at work. So things that could cause stress, workload. Maybe conflict at work, or sometimes relationships that aren't working well at work. And I know sometimes we want to call other people toxic. And you've heard me, if you've been on a webinar before, you've heard me say that I don't use the word toxic about somebody. Sometimes there's toxic cultures, or toxic dynamics in relationships, absolutely. But everyone's got a part to play in that, yes? So the causes of stress could be work and workload, conflict in relationships, deadlines, feeling like we're not meeting expectations. What are your causes of stress at work? And so Sharon says that stress has a negative connotation. Yeah, I don't like the word referred to with use such as anxious or challenge, and that's fine, Sharon. Yep, it does. It does have have that negative connotation. It also depends on the meaning that you're adding. As I shared earlier, stress can actually be very helpful for us. It's a good indicator for us that something's not right, something's off balance, and we need to listen. But if those words work better for you, anxious or challenge, then use those. So what other areas for you at work feel like they trigger your stress? Sometimes there's a certain person at work that won't go near, and we'll walk around them physically, even literally, or we'll work around them, won't we? Or if we're in a meeting together, we might not actually speak up or challenge their ideas, even though we might want to, or even contribute to their ideas, because we might not feel that will be received well. So all of that causes us stress, because when you're going into that meeting, you're already starting to worry about that person's reaction or their response, or what they might say to you. I was speaking to a leader earlier this week, and he was sharing with me about one of the challenges in his leadership team, where some people aren't working well together and they're kind of blaming each other. And there's always two stories, isn't there? Even though we feel like our story and our truth is the truth, then what I know to be true after 20 years of coaching is that there's more to the story than that. And so there's always blind spots for all of us. All right. So in our personal relationships, there can be stress when we have expectations of each other that aren't being met, or we're not feeling connected. So there's a lack of connection in our intimate relationships or our family relationships. Yeah, that can cause us stress. Rita says assistants being too slow to act on instructions. Sometimes that can cause stress when leaders want to move fast and look behind and the people that support them aren't moving as fast. That can be very stressful. And so one of the things that the important dynamics of leadership is to understand how to engage those people and what their map of the world is and how you can connect. Because often what we want to do is when we want to try and move people faster, and I've done this myself and sometimes still do, hey Georgie, is that I try and, make things happen, and that doesn't feel good to everybody around, and we can't do everything on our own. So it's about how do we connect and engage and influence in a way that serves that person and has them feel empowered. So that's the responsibility of leadership as well as the privilege. So what else have you got? When peers don't have commitment for work, running late between patients. Yep. Sound is good. Thank you, Kathy. Yes. And so those things, other people's behavior when you read too much into it. Yes. And so, that's a good one. So when we're always analysing what someone else is doing and then making it mean something about what they think about us or how well they're doing their job. And so we tell lots of stories in our mind, don't we? And there's evidence to show us that the main cause of stress for us is what's going on in here. And so even though we're in challenging times at the moment, or unfamiliar times and uncertain times, I'm adamant and passionate and insatiably curious about how we can create our day every day from here, as opposed to, from the inside out, as opposed to what's coming at us. And it is possible. I know it can be challenging. It takes practice, but it is possible. And that's something that I want you to take away from today. So what other stresses do you have? So in your personal family relationships can cause you stress. Sometimes when we feel that there's obligation, can you see that board? Not quite. So obligations to family. So I know that when the family dynamic that was of my past, I always felt obligated to be there all the time with all of my family. And that didn't work for me eventually. I discovered that. But that had caused me stress over a long period of time, trying to meet expectations, trying to please. If you don't, I don't have the book here with me, but if you haven't read Glennon Doyle's book called Untamed, you've got to read it. I'm still working through it, but it's just so easy to read. It's a beautiful book. And I'm like, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. And even though we think that we're confident or, driven and determined people, and we are, there's still elements in all of us that want to please others. So it's a very powerful book, and you might see yourself in some of that.